The Wiggly Podcast, bringing your garden to life.
Welcome to the Wiggly Podcast. This week we've got a special. It's Goat Show. Goat Show from the Wiggly Sofa. There's just the two of us, but we are bringing in a culprit, a wiggly, bad human.
Nay,
for
criminal.
Evidence. Criminal. A wiggly criminal. Yes, this week we've been being criminals at Wiggly Wigglers. I'm Heather from Wiggly Wigglers, and I'm joined today by...
Farmer Phil.
Now, I'm just going to have to take off my body warmer because it's actually totally hot in the Wiggly sitting room. Michael is here in his full winter gear and he is just stripping off as we speak, rolling up his sleeves. Farmer Phil's in his padded shirt. We're all prepared, but no, because Farmer Phil has given in. He's turned the heating on. Woo-hoo! What's happened, Farmer Phil?
The barrel price of oil dropped.
Well, Jam's here, if you can hear any wagging, any sniffing. Jam's in the Wiggly room too, and she joins us today. She's very interested because I've got 3 peas in my hand, which have been harvested by Farmer Phil's fair hand. And we're going to find out all about how these peas are tasty for goats. But first of all, in Goat Show, I have got the first goat fact. Goats are ruminants or cud-chewing animals that eat cracked or ground corn mixed with oats, hay and grass.
I understood that goats eat pretty much anything, including clothes, bits of tree, depending on how hungry they are, because if you remember, in Morocco they climb the olive trees, don't they, and eat the leaves off them.
Goats will not eat soiled food unless they are pushed to the point of starvation.
Much like humans, then.
You never had any goats. Goats are for smallholders in your world, aren't they, commercial Farmer Phil? Goats are sort of looked down upon, aren't they, in Farmer Phil commercial world?
I'm not sure that that's actually true because, all right, yes, you think in terms of goats as existing in the poorer parts of the world, the more arid regions, but not so very far afield. In France, for example, there are a lot of milking goats. And I think it's partly to do with the market that in Britain we don't tend to think in terms of drinking goat's milk or eating a vast amount of goat's cheese.
We do. I had goat's cheese yesterday at Coots. At Coots of London.
I think you'll find that the market in Europe is much bigger, which is obviously why there are more milking goats there. In terms of meat production, they're pretty poor at converting food into meat.
I remember going to Great Campston Farm and seeing the goats on the left, and you were very snooty about them. Do they make a mess? Because I understand they eat nettles, which must be a good thing.
Well, they don't make a mess. I mean,
what's your problem with a goat, then?
It's much the same as my problem with a sheep. I don't like them much either, and they're a bit similar for my liking.
Goat fact number 2. Goats were one of the first animals to be tamed by humans.
Oh, my God, I hope you feel better for that, Jam.
Oh, I'm glad you said jam. And were being herded 9,000 years ago. Oh, phew. Whack. Obviously, Jam has eaten something that doesn't agree with her.
That is a filthy smell, Jam.
Before we go up to Robbie, up on the Black Hill, let's have a bit of feedback. Podchef has come back to us on our brilliant audio content of how to open and close an Opinel knife. Do you think that Podchef could ever do anything within 10 seconds?
Well, I know for sure, reading this, that he's been practising opening his Opinel knife for a lot longer than 10 seconds.
Well, I would like to put a shout out to Podchef and say, Podchef, we will top and tail a video if you would give us a demonstration of opening and closing an Opinel knife, but it has to be within 10 seconds. Maybe we could give him 30 seconds, but not long. Opening and closing an Opinel knife according to Neil Foley, Podchef, www.kitchengardens.net.
As any true Opinel user knows, the easiest way to open an Opinel is to pick it up in your favoured hand and strike the ferrule blade downward against the opposite hand's palm.
That's it. The end. Sorry,
Oh.
he didn't make it. Here we are, Podchef. You can't do it. That's it. Do you want to read the next bit faster? We'll give you 10 more seconds.
This opens the blade quickly. Take the blade in the fingers of the free hand, open the blade to the fully extended position and flick the locking ferrule over with the thumb of the hand already holding the knife. This method, of course, assumes there are no knife bogies or stiff hinge points in your knife.
I'm sorry, but if you're going to feed back to the Wiggly Podcast, you have to take the rules on board, Podchef. 10 seconds is perfectly adequate explanation of how to open and close an Opinel knife. You failed.
I've got to have, because there is a one-handed variation, which is probably...
Can you do that within 10
seconds?
seconds?
I can try.
Right.
There is a one-handed variation of this for field use. While holding an object needing to be cut, steers, tail, taut rope, balloons carrying you away, strike the ferrule against your thigh, trying hard not to drop the knife in the muck, hook the free end of the blade over the rope, hair, etc., pull it open and proceed as before.
What's he mean, balloons carrying you away?
I think he's...
Mary Poppins has an Opinel knife ready on board at any point that her umbrella is going to blow her away.
As you know, Podchef brews and cooks and grows all sorts of strange things, so perhaps he brewed something.
Another goat fact. Goats have a lower set of teeth which meet at a hard pad in the upper jaw and 24 molars, that's more than I've got, on the top and the bottom in their mouths. Kids have 8 small sharp teeth in their lower front jaw, and like children, when their baby teeth fall out, they are replaced by permanent teeth. The age of a goat can be closely determined by their teeth. That's the same as a sheep.
And most animals, cattle and horses notably.
And humans?
Humans only change their teeth once, don't they? You get rid of your milk teeth and then you have a
but then you get your wisdom teeth.
Yeah, but it's different in all people, whereas in animals, the number of... The cow, for example, loses teeth, and sheep similarly lose teeth. And it's reasonably predictable, hence the term broken-mouthed old yow.
I've been called that in my time. Listen, I've got this stuff here, and what we'll do is we'll go and hear about Robbie and her goats, but this, in my sticky little fingers, is pea haulm, which is what Farmer Phil's been harvesting. But let's learn all about goats on the top of the Black Hill at Darren Farm with Robbie. So where are we, Robbie?
We're on Hattrell Hill, on the side of the Black Mountains, above Longtown, in the triangle between Hay, Ross, Hereford and Abergavenny.
That's a square.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Now, are we up the Olcombe Valley or not?
Yes. Yes.
And how long have you lived here? And this is the first day I've got out of my truck and felt warm.
Ooh. We've lived here 11 years.
And where did you come from? Were you a goat farmer before?
I was a goat farmer in Lampeter.
And what is good about here for goats? Because isn't it a bit chilly, or do goats like chilliness?
It's only you that thinks it's a bit chilly.
I thought
it's usually raining. It is 2 degrees colder up here than it is down in the village. No, I think the goats like it because the land is undulating, shall we call it. It's very up and down.
Yeah.
They don't like flat fields, they get bored.
Because when I've been to, like, Greece and Italy, you see goats up in the trees.
Yes.
They like climbing, do they?
They do. I try not to let them get up the trees here. But, I mean, there's lots of streams with big, deep banks, and they can get their feet up the trees then. Goats are browsers, not grazers, and they're looking for anything with very deep roots. They love dock leaves, they love nettles, they love brambles, and they love the leaves off trees because deep roots for the minerals.
Oh,
That's
really?
what they're looking for.
Because
all the time.
Doesn't that, I mean, if you ate a nettle, wouldn't it sting you, and a bramble? And
well,
they got
it would
tough mouths?
But I don't know. They got very soft mouths, but they do eat them. They love them. They love nettles when the sugar's up in them. And I cut nettles, which we have many of, and bundle them up and leave them to go black, and they have them in the winter because they're full of iron.
Really? And you have Farmer Phil's pea straw?
We do.
Why is that?
Because
he brings
the goats
it all the way
love
up
it.
this hill.
I know. God bless him. Yes, because the goats love it. They love the pea pods. They love the peas that he leaves in it.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Don't tell him, he'll charge me more.
Yeah, he will.
But, yeah, they love it. They eat every bit of it. They absolutely adore it.
Let's walk and see these kids you've got. Now, tell me about shearing them, because you keep these goats predominantly for the wool to make mostly the goat socks.
Mostly the goat socks, but a lot of other things as well. Designing knitwear and throws and scarves. Anything that you can produce from mohair.
Yeah. So, shearing them must take place. Now, who are these dogs?
Sorry about that. That's my two terriers, Bubbles and Twinkie.
Not Bubbles and Squeak.
No, not Bubble and Squeak, although she does squeak.
Yeah.
Bubbles and Twinkie.
So, you keep them for the wool, so you must shear them, say, in the spring. Is that right?
We shear them in January and we shear them in August, September.
Well, how does a goat possibly survive a shearing in January?
Well, I put them in jumpers.
Jumpers?
Yes, I buy jumpers from the Marie Curie shop.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Right.
Or I have them donated from people in the village. There's always jumpers being left in my post box at the top of the drive, and I cut the sleeves off them and I put them in the jumpers. Children's jumpers for the little ones and cardigans for the boys, because they have to have an opening underneath for obvious reasons.
But should I say to you, but that's beyond nature, why the heck would you be shearing them?
Okay, the mothers are going to kid in the beginning of February.
Right.
And because the fleece is 6 inches long, when the kids are born, they wouldn't be able to find the milk.
Oh, I see.
So I would have to turn the mothers over and shear all down their bellies and their bags. And in any case, they're due for shearing then. So we just shear them all.
And so we're looking at these gorgeous kids, and their eyes are just bright and their bums are dirty, but...
They are dirty. They're going to be cleaned tomorrow. They've been on a very lush field, and I'm afraid they have got dirty bums. So they are due for shearing, but I've only just weaned them yesterday, and I wouldn't shear them now when I've only just weaned them, because the stress would be too much for them. I want them to settle down and just be used to being away from mother for a couple of weeks, and then I'll shear them completely. But tomorrow it's rubber glove job and shear bums.
What a great Sunday you're going to have.
It's going to be lovely.
Now,
I really look forward to it.
What sort of goats are these then?
They're Angora goats.
And so they originated where?
The Middle East, really, I think. They're in the Bible.
Are they?
Yeah, they're in the Bible. And the best ones came from the Ankara region of Turkey, which I think is where this Angora comes from. I think it's the European way of pronouncing Ankara. I think that must be where it came from. Mohair comes from the Arabic mukhar.
Their wool, or their hair. is, well... It's
tight, curly.
It reminds me of my hairdo on times.
Yeah.
But it's sort of long and curly, isn't it? How long would that be? About 8 inches long? Or?
That's about 6 inches. These kids were born in March.
And so now
and they haven't been sheared yet.
Right.
So it's about an inch a month.
So are they absolutely boiled in the summer, or does this actually keep them cool?
No, it keeps them cool. It's like your own hair. Keeps you cool, and then it keeps you warm in the winter.
Now, there's one question I think I can answer myself, which one of the Wiggly team asked, which was, is the wool grey in the blanket, or is the goat grey?
I've got some grey ones. They are quite rare now. There was only about 4 or 5 bucks ever imported into this country that were grey ones. And I know there are hardly any left in the country now. I've probably got about 11, that's all. I do seem to sell quite a few of them. I think it's hand spinners like it.
Oh, yeah, I see.
But it's lovely in the blankets, in the throws. I've got 1 buck, but the trouble is to find a replacement for him, and once you've got a lot of his daughters, that's it, you've had it.
Oh, yeah, you don't want any inbreeding, do you?
No, you don't.
Is that Farmer Phil's pea straw there?
It is. It's the last of last year's.
Right.
And it's the comforter for them. Now they've come off mother.
Oh, I see.
They're just having a little bit of something special.
Well, you'll be pleased to hear that this very morning...
He's baling it.
He's baling some Farmer Phil pea straw.
Hooray!
Now listen, tell me what's special about those socks, because I came from here on that first morning you and I met, and it was freezing, and because I'd spoken to you for so long, my feet had near enough dropped off. I got in the truck and I put my goat socks on, having heard all the tales about how wonderful they are, and thinking, aye. I put them on and they warmed my feet up.
Yeah.
And I kept them on for that week. And today...
And they still didn't smell.
No, they didn't. And of course, I've got my red goat socks on. So why is it?
I think it's because it's a hair rather than a wool. I don't know why they are warmer than wool, but they're certainly smoother than wool. And because of that smoothness, they don't seem to let the bacteria grow that wool does. I've got several people who have very sore feet, or have had. One particular gentleman is an auctioneer in Brecon, and his auntie lives up here on the mountain, and he has had sore feet all his life because he's in boots a lot of the time and wellies a lot of the time in the market. And she said his feet at some points in the summer are just raw. And she came up here and bought these socks, and he wears them all the time, and his feet are perfect.
Really?
And when Bob takes cattle to Brecon to the organic sale, when he rings up to book them in, he usually asks him if he wants any socks. Because we hope we get a better price for the cattle because he likes our socks.
Because loads of farmers buy your socks.
Yeah, they do. But he treats all the girls in the office at Christmas. He'll be famous now because he'll be on the radio.
Now, I was on my way up here and I called at Vouchurch Market and I saw Nina, who Rob Price works for us, and Nina is his partner, and she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Up to Robbie's socks." She said, "My dad loves Robbie's socks." How have you managed to... Because your socks, without offence, are expensive. You know, I can buy in Primark 3 pairs of socks for £1.
And how long will they last?
Not very long.
No, and my socks, if you wear them every week, will last you 4 years.
Yeah, but farmers are tight. And up
we
in
know
these
this.
hills...
We do know this. Yes, well, farmers are having it tough, aren't they? And you've got to watch your pennies. But if you're a man who's in boots all the time, on your feet, out in all weathers, it's important to be warm and your feet dry. And if you find a good pair of socks, you come back from, don't you?
Yeah.
We did say when we moved up here that I thought when all the farmers in the area here were wearing my socks, we'd be accepted, because I'm not a Hereford girl.
Oh, yeah.
And I come from Kenilworth originally, so I'm not a Hereford girl, but they are all wearing our socks. And
that's fantastic.
Their wives buy them at various things that I do, and they come up here and they buy them, and they'll even venture up here occasionally in their old pickups and buy some themselves.
Like a drive-in sock shop.
It is really, yes. They talk to Bob on the yard and I go and fetch the socks. They don't have to get out the truck, they just give me the money.
Thank you very much, Robbie. Indeed, it's been fascinating to see you and your goats, and I must say you're a very good interviewee, bearing in mind it's taken me 9 months to get this interview.
Yes, I have ducked and dived as much as I possibly could.
Anyway, for anyone who'd like to see those goats in their woolly jumpers, the male goats in cardigans, of course, and the lady goats in woolly jumpers, there will be a picture up on the blog, on the Wiggly blog, of a newspaper article where the press got carried away and invaded Darren Farm from far afield to see the goats in their woolly jumpers, courtesy of the charity shops. So this pea Farmer Phil, doesn't look to me at all tasty for man nor beast.
No.
In fact, it looks like shredded, rotten, brown, swatted flies.
But as you found out, the goats love it, don't they? And one of the reasons, well, several reasons they like it, it's obviously very high in fibre, and your description of it demonstrates that. It is raving dead, but it's also got quite a lot of protein in it compared to other straws. And one of the main interests for the goats is that the pickups on the balers will collect the odd full pod of peas on the ground, and so that the bale of pea haulm just has the odd pea in it. And of course that's the little nugget that the goats will go hunting for.
But when our dear listener listens to this, he will picture in his mind or her mind a packet of bird's eye green peas, or even freshly picking a pod, popping them out, tasting them in their mouth, lovely, luscious, bright green peas, sweet and delicious. And I am looking at a dried up, grey, yellowy brown thing. So, are they tasty? Are you going to eat one for me?
No, I can't eat
Pete
one.
coming over.
They're not terribly tasty because they're dried. They should be a better colour than that. To be fair to them, the reason they're that colour is because of the prolonged wet weather they've had on them. They should be bone hard, so you break your teeth trying to bite them, and they should be a fairly even pale green colour. But for my purposes, because I'm growing those for seed, as long as they grow and pass their seed tests, they'll be absolutely fine. And they are then grown for another farmer to harvest the green crop, so the bird's eye pea, the nice green sweet pea.
So were these peas the bird's
Yes.
eye pea, sweet pea?
Yeah, all we did was we just leave them in the field and let them desiccate out to be dry enough to combine. And that's why the haulm has gone a sort of pale brown colour, and the peas, in this case, they've been bleached out to sort of nearly a creamy colour, haven't they? And they don't taste very sweet.
So can you confirm on this podcast that you have indeed baled all the pea haulm ready for those goats?
I have enough pea haulm baled for the goats' winter rations.
Very good. And have you finished the harvest?
I have finished the harvest, all bar the sunflowers, which aren't obviously ready yet.
Yippee, dear listener, because that means that we go out for food and drink. Where are we going this year?
I don't know. Haven't decided yet.
Any local hostelries anyone recommends within a radius of 15 miles? Michael says there's a new Raymond in Bristol that's too posh, too expensive and too far. But thank you. Listen, let's go to Monty for a weekly fact on wiggliness.
Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness. Female blackbirds are actually brown. Another Montycast, a weekly fact on wiggliness. Next week.
Goat fact. There are 210 breeds of goats and an estimated 450 million goats in the world, as at a few years ago. It's estimated that approximately 6 to 8% of them are in North America, but most of them are in the Middle East and Asia.
So yesterday morning, we both got up early and I put my working clothes on and set off to Derbyshire to collect a fertiliser spreader which I had purchased. And you got your glad rags on in some order, I have to say, smartened yourself up no end.
Best frock.
And
Daytime frock.
departed.
Not ball gown, daytime best frock.
Departed in
Well,
the
the
new...
one frock.
Have you quite finished?
Yes, just saying, the daytime frock.
Right. In your glad rags.
Yeah.
And departed in the new Wiggly sunflower van in the direction of London. Oh, why was this?
Well, I was invited to Ladies in Agriculture, which was eminent ladies in agriculture. In fact, here is a bit of a list of who was there.
I've
To
never
give you
heard
an
you
idea.
described as an eminent lady in
Well,
agriculture, I must say.
I was going to say, and there was me as well. So we had Caroline Alexander, who does all sorts of things with hops. That was interesting. We had Sally Bendel. We had the head of DEFRA. We had the Elizabeth Buchanan, who's private secretary to the Prince of Wales. We had Baroness Byford, who sits in the Houses of Lords. We had the marketing manager for Yara, who I think are your favourite company at the moment.
I don't like them at the moment.
They're
No.
the fertiliser people, aren't they?
They're profiteering a bit, I feel.
Oh, I don't think she would agree with that. There was the head of FWAG, who's Anne Kellart. There was the head of LEAF. There was Margaret Collinson OBE. You name it, right? They were there. And then there was me as well. So off I went to Coots to find out all about the history of Coots. And I found out all about it. And 300 years ago, this chap started with a little shop in the Strand. And he would let people bring his cattle there. And he had some cows in Highgate too. And he started off the shop, which then turned into Coots Bank. And his name was Mr. Campbell.
So what you're saying is that the poshest bank in Britain is actually a farmer. I rest my case.
Women have run it mostly, in actual fact, Farmer Phil. And to put it all in perspective, the most successful period was when it was run by a woman who was slightly artistic, slightly porky, and had no qualifications. Yes! Anyway, we thought...
I have no response to that.
We thought instead of going in the car... We couldn't go on the train because all the times are wrong for the trains. We couldn't make it in the right order. So we thought instead of taking the car, that we'd take the Wiggly van for a trip out to expose it to the public and see if we couldn't get some... Oh, there's the Wiggly van. So I put a little message up on Facebook saying we've got a competition going for Wiggly van spotting. And we've had some entries in already. Apparently, the Wiggly van has been outside NASA and Mr. Bush's residence already. It's definitely been up Longtown Mountain, but there's pictures on the Facebook group. You must go and look at them. They are so funny. So we thought we would take the Wiggly van for a trip off and hopefully get the opportunity to take a photo of it outside Coots. But anyway, it didn't quite work out like that because we ended up in Earl's Court going to ECMOD to have an argument with a software supplier.
Or a software not supplier.
Yes, a lot of pointing went on. Not by me, I hasten to add. Anyway, what's that bird that's just landed on the bird table? Quick.
That is a sparrowhawk.
There we are. Sparrowhawk lands on the Wiggly bird table. Too late, Michael, it's gone.
You can tell he's a sparrowhawk because he's got yellow legs and he's got a speckledy front.
Anyway, off we went to Coots, you see, in the Wiggly van. And when I was waiting for San, when I was sat in the van in Ross, two people went by and they said in exactly the same tone, Wiggly Wigglers! Wiggly Wigglers! And I thought, oh, isn't that nice? Anyway, so off I went to Coots. And I had a wonderful time and some pink champagne. I saw the Chinese wallpaper on the wall, learned all about Coots and met up with these amazing women who are into agriculture. I'm not sure why I was there because obviously I can't afford to have an account at Coots. But they did tell us some corking people who have had accounts. They didn't mention the current one, who I know is the Queen. And I know that Prince has an account at Coots because occasionally we get a check off him in the Wiggly Wigglers office and we go, Coots check! Like that. So I know it's him. I suppose we mustn't say that because of the Data Protection Act. But Lady Hamilton was a Coots customer.
Of Nelson fame.
Yes.
She lived just down the road in Monmouthshire.
Did she?
Yeah. He built her a house there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Queen recorded their album just down the road.
They did at Rockfield Studios.
Well, I'll be.
As did Motorhead.
Oh, that doesn't count. They're just grebos, for God's sake. Anyway, so off I went there. Had a wonderful time. And the Wiggly van spotting competition carried on. Tanya, who is a keen photographer, is going to judge the best photo. But we have got a new entry in. And that, I'm afraid, is from the DVLA. who managed to take a photograph of the Wiggly van going through the roadworks at Swindon. And so I will go now and get the Wiggly criminal in to answer the charge. The court calls Mrs. Sandra Haynes. Put her in the dock. Judge Judy for today's show is Justice Gorringe, alias Farmer Phil. My lord, over to you.
Mrs. Haynes, are you going to tell the truth?
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I will. Oh, no, that's
Have you married him? Mr. and Mrs.
The task falls to me, Mrs. Haynes, as judge in this instance, to inquire of you as to your movements last evening. Were you, Mrs. Haynes, proceeding in a northwesterly direction on the A417 near Swindon at 19:42 hours last evening in the Wiggly Sunflower vehicle?
Vehicle?
in contravention of the Road Traffic Act 1963,
63?
i.e. at excessive speed in contravention of the speed limit in force at the time,
i.e. meow.
in a rush to get home to the pub.
I was, my lord.
Send her down. Oh no, I've got to sentence her. Well, I've got two tasks really. One is, have you any mitigating circumstances that you would like to state to the court at this stage?
I have, my lord. There are two. I would like to put forward that it was all in an effort to obtain the best picture for the Facebook group. I feel that a picture from the DVLA would be the best prize.
And they will win the £60.
Sadly, they will. I have to accept this as a mitigating circumstance. However, I have a further offence that needs to be taken into consideration.
Oh.
It may or may not be known to the court attendees today that various other members of our family have had the misfortune to have assorted run-ins with the speed limit enforcing agency, i.e. the DVLA. Particularly your husband, Mr. Alex Haynes, has accumulated in the past a number of penalty points on his driving licence. And sadly for you, he has been in receipt of a lot of jip from your good self on this subject. You having a clean licence until today. What do you have to say to this absolutely despicable conduct?
I would just like to say that I am over the moon and pleased to now be part of the ever-growing group I got caught by a speed camera.
The court rises. Send her down. Thanks, Sam.
You're welcome.
I love making the Wiggly Podcast, and next week's show is gonna be a corker. If you have the chance to put a review up on our iTunes page, that would be just a jolly job. Otherwise, you gotta go to Facebook this week. If you are a Facebook groupie, check out those photos of the Wiggly van. There's some corkers there, and put your own up. Now, apparently you don't even need to spot the van to do it. I don't know how that works.
It had been suggested to me that there might be some creative cheating going on, and I say let's have some more of it.
Down to Tanya, that one. She's the judge. And if you get a chance to visit the Wiggly blog, go to wigglyWigglers.blogspot.com, or even better, go to our website. October is Worm Month. We've got lots of wiggly, wormy, wiggly, monthly, wiggly offers on worms, mealworms and composting worms. It's time to start composting, and it's time to start feeding the birds if you're in the UK. If you're in California, just chill out on the beach. Bye from me.
And bye from me.